I'm going to be talking about Orion, which is not an online IDE. It's different, but you'll see that if you're curious. Right now, you can just go to that URL. It's eclipse.org/Orion, and you can sign up and play with it if you're bored by my talking. Because I'm going to just start with this, a few things that don't actually demo Orion, because I want to make a kind of bigger point here. So, okay, my name is Boris Bokowski. I should probably say I'm an Eclipse guy, so I have this Java background. I'm transitioning to JavaScript, learning a lot. It's a lot of fun. But really, originally I'm a Smalltalk dude. So anyway, so to start off, first some observations. As software developers, we're one of the few professions that can actually build our own tools, and we enjoy doing that. So it's like a carpenter might build a jig or something that helps him get his work done faster. We do the same kind of thing, and we enjoy doing tools. And software development, as it started, was stuff on the command line, and it got really powerful. So you can do funny things. And the command line is really nice because you can add new tools, and all these little tools that you can build yourself or get from others are integrated by accessing the file system or using those pipes and filters. And there's scripting, but distribution is a bit of a problem. Because if you've written something in some language and you want to give it to somebody else, they have to have the same kind of environment. They maybe have to recompile that stuff. But it's a nice way to develop software. You have all these tools and you can add whatever you want. So there's another way of doing software development, and that's those big IDEs. This is the one that I've been working on for a couple of years. And IDEs give you deeper integration. So for example, in Eclipse, you get not only the file system, but you get change events as an Eclipse plugin. There's integration in terms of the errors and warnings all appearing in one place. There's a certain level of UI consistency. It's a UI level tool, not a command line tool, those kinds of things. But it's pretty difficult to write plugins or to write tools that run in this environment and get this kind of deep integration. And the distribution problem is not solved at all. You have to package up your stuff, you have to give it to somebody else, they have to find the place in Eclipse where you add a plugin, all those kinds of things. So my claim now is, with the web, we have a third alternative of doing things. And why is that? Well, obviously, as software developers, we spend a lot of time in browsers, especially web developers. But everybody basically is doing bug tracking, planning, tracking builds, maybe browsing documentation in the browser already. And then there's tools like Cloud9 IDE and Orion that address the core development activities like editing code, navigating files and folders, running unit tests, debugging, those kinds of things. And then there are lots of little tools. And what do I mean with lots of little tools? I mean these kinds of things, where it's really easy for somebody to just make a tool available out there on the web. And when I say a lot of little tools, I really mean a lot of little tools. So I spent 2-3 hours just Googling for web-based tool, various flavors, and these are some of the things that I found. So there's stuff for CSS and rounded corners, build-related things, picking colors, coming up with a scaffolding for a website, sharing code snippets, understanding regular expressions, doing web requests, formatting code, and it's amazing. The amount of innovation that's out there is amazing. And it's a lot. I don't know. So how many of you have built such a tool and put it online somewhere? Only one? Can't believe it. How do you end up with these many tools? So I think the web is becoming a platform for software development tools because all these things are part of the software development workflow. And it's really easy to add those tools, and you just get to them by URLs. And the distribution problem is solved as long as those things run in all the browsers. And the big open problem is integration. How do these tools work together? How can you ensure that as you transition from one tool to another, that you don't have to download or upload stuff into one tool, download results, and then upload into the next tool, and so on and so forth. And this is what Orion is about. It's about figuring out how we can make those tools work together. So, and now it's demo time. So all this was running from within Orion, so it's was a little bit risky, or is still risky, running this from an external site. This is the Orion editor. There's the Orion Navigator. And let me close this to make it probably hide. Okay, so navigators. So it's basically files and folders, and you can get to the root by clicking here, and then you get into things, and all these things are links. And they're links because then what we get is all the browser gestures for doing things that browsers are good at. For example, open stuff in new tabs. And by doing this, I was able to open a second instance of that navigator on a second browser tab. So that's what I mean by this is not an IDE. It's not putting and not translating the IDE concepts that we like I've worked on for the past couple of years into a web app that's on one tab, but instead using the web itself as the platform. And then if these various places that you go to, for example, the navigator and the editor, I know you go here, and that replaces the navigator with the editor code. And by doing that, you can ensure that as the functionality grows, as you add more stuff to this, you add more stuff by adding more pages or new pages to it, and you don't get the bloat problems. Oops. Airplane mode. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. I need my notes. So, but the editor itself, so it's a standalone thing on this page. And if I go back, I get back to the navigator. So all those navigation things work. Let me just get to a place where there's a little bit of JavaScript. So for example, here, so there's the usual things work in the editor, like, I don't know, commenting out a block of code, moving stuff up and down, undo, redo, copy, paste, all those things. And it's really fast, like Ace, so not a problem getting to, I don't know, over 100,000 lines of code, and you can still type down here, and you get the syntax highlighting, and it doesn't work only at the bottom, you can go to the top too. If you try to reload, you get the prompt. And yes, I do want to go back. There's support for error checking and displaying errors, and there's nothing in here. Okay, let's do something bad. So if I was somewhere else, I could still see there's an arrow up here that moves me up there. I can hover over that and get the wonderful JSLint error message. So as you can see, this is not something where we have invested a lot of effort into making those error messages really good. It's more that we think our focus needs to be on making those integrations and the basic infrastructure available. And to that end, we make things like the ruler work and have plug points where people can add tools, or we can add tools like JSLint to this story. There's also a, well, that's not very helpful, but it's a place where you can jump between different places in the code. And this information is also coming from JSLint. Okay. So I said it's about integration. How do you make those tools work really well together? And you could always go to JSLint, right? You could go to the JSLint page, and you could copy paste your code in here. But things like that you would want to pull into your editor environment and make available there. And that's what we've done. So we have this the JSLint code coming here as a so-called plugin. So a plugin is something that we run on the page, and it's a hidden iframe. And then we talk to that thing using window post message. And in the example of the error checking, we give it the current editor buffer, and it comes back with a list of problems. So that could be JSLint, or it could be JSHint, or it could be something entirely different. What this also enables is, because it's an iframe that we talk to, we can make things, we can enable things where the code that gets added is actually coming from a different domain. So for example, if I went to something that was minified code and wanted to have that formatted, I could either copy paste this code into some other website, like I don't know, jsbeautifier.org is one possibility. But again, that's something that doesn't really flow well. So what we've done is we've built something which essentially is the jsbeautifier.org code plus a few lines of glue stuff that talks to that window post message protocol to the Orion editor. And I can go and take this URL and install it into Orion. So that installs that plugin for my account. And installing that thing will run, load this code once and cache metadata about it, like the name of that thing and an image. And then next time I come to an editor, which should be somewhere here, okay. So this was the place where I wanted to format, and now I got this new action here, which is formatting my JavaScript. And if I click that, at that point we load the iframe, and apparently it's kind of slow. Stop using the internet. Okay, so loads the iframe and then sends over the editor buffer to that code. It formats it in that hidden iframe, sends back a new buffer. And the same kind of idea is behind the Navigator. So yeah, leave this page. So in the Navigator, for example, we're currently browsing files on the Orion server, but this is pluggable, and we could be talking to some other server that maybe speaks a different protocol like WebDAV and display that in the Orion Navigator. Okay, how have I run this demo here? This was basically, I went and forked on GitHub. Actually, this is the Orion client code is up on GitHub too. So you can take this URL or a read-only thing and in Orion clone that. So we have Git support there, and that gave me this directory JSConf. And then I can go and see what have I changed. So we have a little bit of Git UI implemented already. So there's things like my local changes. I can see the diff here. I can, if I want, show that in side-by-side. This is something that the Eclipse guys wanted to see here, where you have the old and new side-by-side. You can go back to the Git status page, and you can leave that open as a new tab. And then whenever you go somewhere else and you make a change, you go on the Git status tab again, hit reload, and you would get a new result of running Git status, essentially. And from here you can say, stage this, stage that, enter a commit message. Okay, I think I've run through most of the features of Orion. And maybe another point that I should make is that there is a server that implements this. And because we used to be Java guys, we implement that server in Java. But there's nothing in the concept behind Orion that says it has to be one server. So for example, this full text search feature here is implemented using Solr and Lucene. Oh, no matches. I don't know. Maybe slide. Okay, lots of matches. This is running in one Java VM right now on the server side, but it could well be a different server that just crawls my resources, crawls my files and folders, if I have given access to that other server. So we've architected our servers such that these things can be separated, and others can come along and say, we have much better code search, so maybe the Google code search could crawl your stuff, and then make that, and then plug their functionality into, with that plugin mechanism, into this search box up here. Or there's a way to basically launch or make your content available on the web. So that's similar to what Cloud9 is doing too. And this is the URL that my slides were on. No? It's not index.html. Anyway, making that available on the web like that makes it possible to go to other tools that are out there on the web, where you can just put that URL in, and then Google PageSpeed Online analyzes your stuff and gives you results, gives you hints for how to speed up things. So we're looking for those kinds of things where there's other tools that are out there already, and how can we make those part of your development flow without everybody having to write to a particular complicated API. And with that, I'm just going to give you a few more links here. The client side of Orion has recently been relicensed and is BSD licensed now, and the server side is EPL licensed. And if you want to find out more, I would suggest you go to that first URL there. Any questions? Yes? Do we have local history? No. Right now we don't. I would like to implement something like that, but I would like it be part of the Git support, where you just have a micro branch that's generated for you automatically. That shouldn't be too hard. Anything else? Okay, if you have other questions or have a tool that you think would be interesting to integrate with this, talk to me, and there's snack, I think, upstairs now, and I'll walk there, and if you want to grab me, that'd be awesome. Thank you.